Hi, David, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've been very excited about learning more about you and animal communication. I know I've had a session with you, which went wonderful. I think it's amazing what you do, and I think the service is so valuable that people just really want to connect with their animals, alive or passed on, and I think that's an amazing thing that you offer. So thank you.
Well, thanks for having me. I love my work. I love to talk about it. So
Awesome.
We'll have fun.
Yeah, so with that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into animal communication?
Well, I often tell people that the career thing with me never really took. You know, I worked a lot. I worked in human services for many years. I worked for the state for about a decade, but I never quite found my passion. I always had a balance between wanting to be of service and wanting to be creative. Okay. And certainly this, animal communication kind of, meets both of those criteria. Creative in the sense that it really is, it's just me putting myself out there and, and being open to whatever happens, whatever comes in. Now, in terms of when I got started with it, that was years ago, about 20 some years ago, I started studying intuitive development. I had a lot of interesting experiences happen to me over the years, but I never really thought about myself as psychic. My spiritual program really started for me in my early 30s, in the late 80s. I discovered A Course in Miracles and the teachings of Emmanuel and Louise Hay and other things, and I became very involved in spiritual study. And so then I decided to, study intuitive development. And during the course of that, I discovered that you could do it with animals. And I was thrilled by the idea. I found out there was a place where I could go to study. There's a place called Spring Farm Cares in Clinton, New York, near Utica, with a wonderful teacher. She scaled back her teaching right now, but I studied with her. I took all her classes, and then I asked her, well, who taught you? And she told me Penelope Smith, and Penelope is sort of the grandmother of the movement. She started it in the 70s. She wrote a wonderful book called Animal Talk, which I would recommend to anybody who's interested in learning about it. And she's written other books too, but Animal Talk is kind of her first textbook about it. And so I sought her out, and I went to, she came to Kripalu Yoga Center in Lenox, Mass, and I studied with her there. And then I went out to California when she lived in Marin County and took week-long workshops with her, and became trained by her many, many hours. And then during that time, I was already doing it because it just came real easy to me. And then once I did that, I really turned my back on working with people. I just, I will do readings for people if they feel like there's a connection and they really want one. I have a few clients who I'll do personal readings for, but I don't, I really want to work with the animals. If you want a psychic reading, you can look on the internet and find hundreds of people to choose from. If you want an animal communicator, there's not as many. And very few men do this. So I just became enthralled with it, and it's the sweetest work I've ever done. I can't imagine doing anything else now. So that's how that works.
I can tell that you are just natural with the animals, and I think that's so important that you gravitated towards that, and that, with the intuitive development, you realize it's the animals you want to work with, and people do. They connect with the animals or the humans better, and I'm sort of with you there. I definitely like, working with the animals, and that they are just so open. Their energy is just so open to receive, and, how they live just without worry or anxiety, and all that other stuff is just amazing.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, they do pick up, a lot of that from people. Domestic animals do pick up a lot of, they, in many ways, they mirror the way people are in terms of fear and anxiety and stuff like that. So, but what's nice is that I'm able to work with them to help release some of that, help them. My goal, my mission sort of is to bring harmony between people and their animals. And sometimes I work with wild animals too, if people have a request. And sometimes I'll do it just for fun, just to see what happens. But that's my goal, is to bring harmony. And if the animals have issues, or if the people have issues, try to bring them together. Or if the animals have issues with each other, sometimes it's a matter of, I've got a session later today where I'm going to be working with a woman who has 2 cats, and she wants to get a 3rd one, and she wants to find out from the other 2 how they would feel about that, and whether they would want another Abyssinian, or whether they would want a rescue cat. And, so there's all kinds of reasons why people would contact me or any other animal communicator.
So what would somebody expect with a session with you? How does animal communication work?
Well, what I do is I close my eyes and tune into their energy. Not everybody closes their eyes, but I can be distractible. So I want to close my eyes and tune out everything else, and then I just open myself to feel their energy. And sometimes physical issues will come up right away. It's almost as though they say, well, I don't want to chat, my leg hurts, or something like that. I mean, it'll come up right away if there's a physical problem. Otherwise, I just talk to them, introduce myself, see, kind of get a sense of who they are, what's going on for them. And some are more talkative than others. Some take a little while to trust me. If they've never talked to anyone before, they're not quite sure, that a person, why a person would do that. And, because that's the way they communicate telepathically, and they communicate largely through pictures. So what I do is I close my eyes, I tune in, and generally then I'll open my eyes and start taking notes. Because, sometimes I'll just have start, like, if I would tell you right away, well, this is what's going on, back and forth. But a lot of times, a lot of information comes through at once, and I don't want to miss any of it. So I'll just scribble for a few minutes, and then stop and say, well, here's what I've got, and then we go from there. If you have questions, if some of it doesn't resonate with you or does resonate, and then we take it from there and see, what the issue is. I don't like to come in as the sheriff. If there's emotional or behavior problems, I don't want to start, well, hi, I'm the animal communicator, stop peeing on the carpet. That's not my job. It's to get to know them and, gain their trust and find out what emotionally is going on with them. So, but a lot of times that's what people are interested in. They want behavior to stop, and I have to explain to them, well, we have to honor them for who they are first. And then, because it gets in the way, a behavior will get in the way, and it keeps the love from flowing, the back and forth love from flowing between the person and the animal when they're doing something that is really, disruptive or inconvenient. So.
If you think about any other relationship, I mean, communication is key. You've got to have that open communication back and forth in order for the relationship to be in harmony. So that makes a lot of sense. And from my understanding, you can communicate with animals that have passed on as well as in the living.
Yeah. Yeah, when I communicate with live animals, I can either do it in person or through a photo. I absolutely don't need a photo, but I like photos. So if people can get them to me, that's good. If somebody says I really don't have a photo, then I'll just say, well, describe her to me. Let me know how old she is, what does she look like, and then I'll tune in that way. But I really prefer to see who I'm talking to. So I'll work with photos if I can't be there in person. And it's the same way with an animal that's passed. You have a photo. Sometimes people will give me a collar or an urn full of ashes or whatever, in addition to that. But I tune into the energy of the animal. Mostly people want to know, are they okay? Sometimes they talk about coming back. Other times they say they're not coming back. I had one recently, a dog who said, I really did everything I can do on earth as a dog. My energy is more important on this side, helping other animals that cross over, or sending love down to earth because it's really needed, or helping, heal animals that are on earth. They tell me what they're doing. It's wonderful. They tell me stories about what it is they're doing, in spirit. I had a little Sheltie, a female Sheltie, tell me that her job, she showed me a picture. I can still see the picture in my mind. She was preparing spirits to incarnate as Sheltie puppies. And the picture was if she was like the mother sending them off on their first day of school, with a little bag lunch and patting them on the butt and sending them to the bus. And like that was her work in spirit, was to send these little Sheltie puppies down and sort of prepare them for what to expect. So
So
it's one.
powerful. I got chills when you told me that story.
Yeah.
That really is amazing
Yeah.
to hear. Yep. And I'm sure that meant a lot to whoever who
Yeah.
was the owner of that pet. Really meant a lot. So with that, what is one of the most memorable experiences you've had as an animal communicator?
Oh my word! I thought about this. I saw your question, and I thought about there's so many stories I could tell. One was with I did a little um, volunteer work at a roadside zoo years ago. I was very conflicted about it because, it wasn't a USDA, or it wasn't a zoological society, rather. These roadside zoos are regulated by the USDA. And they were trying real hard, but, there were just issues. I mean, they were getting food from supermarkets that was past the date, and some of their animals had neurological problems and stuff. And but I wanted the opportunity to interact with exotic animals. So, since I had a chance to talk to a tiger and a lion and stuff like that. And bears, feeding bears marshmallows through the cage. But it was painful as well because I knew they were captive and I wasn't happy about that. But I did have a lovely experience with a miniature horse named Floyd. And he was in a pen, and there was a sign tacked up to his pen that said, "Be careful, I bite." Okay. And they all told me Floyd was cranky. So I graduated from cutting up food to cleaning out pens. That was my job. So I took the wheelbarrow full of hay and the bucket full of water, and I went around to the pens and cleaned them and hayed and watered the animals. I got to Floyd's pen, and I filled up his hay bale and put some water in his dish. And then I had this sense from him that he was really, really sad. I could just feel his sadness. So I sat down on the ground and leaned against a tree where his hay trough was nailed to. And I started talking to him. And he came over and he lay down and he put his head in my lap. And it was really sweet, yeah. Somebody told me that that's not unusual, but it sure seemed unusual to me.
Yeah.
So we sat there, and what he told me was that he really wanted to be in a field with other horses. He didn't want to be in a pen. And I said, well, you've got the burrows right next door to you. And he said, that's not the same. I want to be with other horses. And he showed me, he wanted to be with full-grown horses in a paddock. And I felt bad for him because there was nothing I could do, Sometimes, how it is with people, too. You listen to someone and they're in pain, and all you can do is listen, really. You can't fix it. I mean, I had a fantasy that I would go and, at night and liberate him, but I mean, there was not, that wasn't realistic. I wanted to save him, but there was nothing I could really do but listen. And I said, well, I can be your friend. I can bring you an apple. We can sit and have an apple once in a while and chat, but that's all I can do. So that was one of the more memorable ones. I mean, that's a kind of a sad one, but the good news is the zoo eventually closed, and I haven't been back to see Floyd, but he now lives on a farm, and he's the little herder with, a paddock full of horses.
Oh,
so
wow.
he got his wish.
Yes,
And I have to go see him. I know where he is, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. But I'd love to see him. I'd love to see if he remembers me.
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would definitely remember.
But I've got all kinds of stories. I mean, I had a talk with a squirrel one time, and talked to some dogs about chasing deer in their yard, and they stopped chasing the deer because I told them how they could get killed if they went over they were chasing them right out of the yard into the road.
Oh.
And their people were terrified. And so I explained to them, well, you could get killed. I showed them a picture of one of them lying in the road, dead, and I mean, it seems extreme, but that was a possible reality, and I wanted them to know that. And I explained to them, you need to pretend that there's a wall there. They'll come back the next day. You can chase them in the yard, but the minute you get to the property line, you got to pretend there's a wall there. And that night they stopped chasing the deer. So, I mean, I'm writing my book, and I do presentations. I talk about my work, and I could talk for 2 hours just telling the stories. Oh, after 20 years, I've got like about 100.
I'm sure. Oh.
That I can tell, So.
I'd love to get a copy of that book once it gets released. I'm sure there are lots of good stories in there. And
yeah,
wow,
I'm still working on it. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Yeah, some people, I don't believe, realize how compassionate animals can be, and that story really brings that to light, as how you just explain to the animal, this is what will happen, you know, this is what happens when you chase them, and just to have that compassion. Yeah, it's there, it's alive, and they're full of it. So they're
Oh,
full
they
of
have compassion for each other. They have compassion for humans. It's really wonderful. Their animal energy is just really wonderful. You know.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
I'm very lucky.
Hmm. So, what are some things that pet owners can do to communicate better with their animals?
Well, I think they could try to practice what I do. Just try and listen. You know, close your eyes and see what kind of feeling you get in your gut. Um, I had this. I was telling a story the other day about a. Oh, actually, yeah, it was for my book. There was a dog. I was doing one of those events, like a walkathon that the different shelters do, you know, to raise money. And I had a table set up, and these women brought me a dog, and I tuned into him, and I automatically felt in my stomach tremendous pain, and it felt like acid reflux. But I mean, I just knew it was. I had a very, very painful stomach, and I said to them, his stomach is killing him, and they said, They said, we know. I said, well, the information I got was that he either needs to take an antacid or drink more water. Okay, that's what I was feeling. And they said, well, he won't do it. He won't take the pill, and we can't get him to drink any more water. So I had a little talk with him, and because I felt that, and I guess the point of the story, you know, getting back, I don't want to get off the track, but what you were saying is just listen, you know, try to open yourself to whatever. And if you feel like when I went to the two ferrets and they had headaches, you know, they both have headaches, I knew something was wrong in their environment, because it'd be very unlikely for two animals to have a headache at the same time. So, you know, but I walked into the house, I didn't have a headache when I walked in, okay? So I knew it was them. So if you tune in and you feel something emotional, you get all sad all of a sudden, you know, you close your eyes and you have the intention. A very wise teacher of mine told me years ago, intention is everything, okay? So if you have the intention to tune in and intention to know how they're feeling, then what you have to do is you have to try to relax and separate out your logical mind, okay, from, you know, what your intuitive mind is. And you just practice. You just practice. That's all.
Yeah. So that's a really good thing to do anyway, is to have a few minutes of quiet in your everyday routine, just so you
Yeah,
can get messages, whether it be from your pets or otherwise. But if you are looking to communicate with your pet, that's a great way. I believe I can connect with that so well, because that's how
sure.
I, you know, use my intuition, and I just quiet my mind. I separate, okay, this isn't logic, this is intuition, and kind of figure out, okay, what is the message here? So that's
It's a
really
psychic process. Yeah, Sonia, it's the same as doing intuitive readings for people. It's just that people, they don't understand or necessarily believe or have the experience of knowing that animals think and feel like people do. So they're not, when they get the information, they're confused. They don't know if it's the animal or if it's them. It just takes a while to get used to it, but it's just the very same process.
oh,
Yeah.
sounds very
So can I button up those two stories I was telling you?
oh, sure, yes.
Yeah, let me tell you, the dog, I had a little talk with the dog about the stomach, and I said, listen, you got three choices, okay? You can either take the pill, the antacid, you can drink more water, or you can continue to feel miserable, okay? And then we left it. And then when I packed up and I was leaving, this was at Siena College, I was walking down the sidewalk there, and there were the two women and the dog, and they were disposing of a 20-ounce water bottle, Poland Spring water bottle, that the dog had just consumed the entire 20 ounces. So he made his choice, okay? And then with the ferrets, we figured out that what was happening was ferrets have a musky odor to them. I don't know if you know that, but I found it very disturbing. And so did the people that had them. So they were burning candles, you know, and spraying sprays. And the stuff that they were using to mask the odor was giving the ferrets headaches.
Oh, yeah, makes perfect sense, but not necessarily something
Yeah.
that you would think of when
Yeah.
you have the animals there. So Very nice.
I
So
just wanted to wrap up those stories.
no, that was perfect. I'm glad you did, for sure. What is a common message that our animals want us to hear? Is there a common message?
Um, you know what I hear a lot is slow down,
Mhm.
slow down, calm down, stay, try to stay in the moment, listen to me, be with me is a big one. I've had experiences with animals who are getting ready to pass away, and the people are just beside themselves. I went out to southern, like Greene County or so years ago, and there was a house full of black labs, and one of them had cancer and was going to probably die in a few weeks. And the first thing he said to me, "Can we please stop talking about dying? I'm here right now. Just be with me. Be present with me." You know, uh, and because the people were so worried and scared, and they wanted to make sure they were doing the right thing, and what can we do, and get all the treatments, and uh, you know, they were out of their bodies with their feelings. They were anxiety ridden, and what the dog was asking them to do was stay present in their bodies and stay present with him. Okay, and what happened was they did that, and I got an email a few weeks later from the woman of the couple, and she said, "We were driving back from the vets after we put him down, and my husband said to me that this is the best he's ever felt when he had to let go of an animal." And it was because they took his advice. He said, "Let's stop talking about dying. I'm here. I'm still here. Experience my life as what's left. And let's talk about the life we had together, and, just be with me on a day-to-day basis." That's a big one. Be with me. They often tell people to slow down. I'll get a picture, because they communicate in pictures. So I'll see a picture of the dog, sitting in the kitchen in the morning, and mom is rushing around, making her coffee, getting stuff together, getting the kids off to school, and rushing around. And the dog is saying, "Whoa, try to slow down a little bit, just try to slow down." That's a big one. But they have all kinds of advice depending on what the situation is going. It's not that often that people will say to me, what does he have to tell me? But sometimes they do. Sometimes someone will say, does he have any advice for me? Is there anything she wants to tell me? Anything she wants me to know, about me or about her? So then, it's interesting what you get.
Yes, and it's simple. I mean, they're simple in the way that they think. It's just live in the now. That's all I'm asking from you. It's just such
Yeah.
simple advice, but for humans, I feel like that is way easier said than done.
Absolutely. Yeah,
responsibilities and the
I
to-do
keep working on that. It's not easy at all. So, but my work brings me in that place because I have to be present with them right then. So the way I get to practice it is really, really through my work.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
So powerful. Okay, so we're pretty much going to tie it all up now. But before we do, I just want to know if there's one thing you could tell people about animal communication or about communicating with your animals, what would it be?
I would say trust what you feel, trust what you get. Okay. I would say, along with that, about trusting is that if you don't have any expectations, just allow whatever comes in to come in. And as outrageous as it may seem, allow it to be present and listen to it. I mean, I've heard things that are totally outrageous, that I wouldn't expect someone to, an animal to say to me. But that just be open to whatever comes in, I would say. Try to quiet your mind as much as you can, I use prayer too. I work with the spirit of St. Francis. I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore, but I was raised that way, and I had an affinity. There was a movie back in the 70s called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. It was all about the life of St. Francis, and it was done by Franco Zeffirelli, who made Romeo and Juliet, and this Italian director. A wonderful film, and I got in tune with Francis and always felt a connection to him. And I call upon him now, sometimes for help, and I'll see a little image, of him holding the cat or the dog in his arms, and so I use your prayer, whatever your sense of the highest good is, or the highest power, whatever whether it's the universe, you call it the goddess, whatever it is, ask for help. It's out there,
Certainly is. I know that from experience myself. If you ask, and it will come to you for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So
That's what I would say to people. Yeah.
such great advice too. So,
Yeah.
so you have some upcoming events, some things you're
Well,
going to
I do have there's a place called Balance Massage and Therapy, and it's in Delmar. And on August 22nd, we're going to be doing an outdoor event. So everybody will be masked and we'll be practicing social distancing. And I'm going to give a talk and do a demonstration, and we're going to use we're going to charge $10 and donate it to the Mohawk Hudson Humane Society. Just like you guys work with the Pride Center. When I'm working with you, I donate to the Pride Center. But we're going to donate to Mohawk Hudson, and then I'll be available to do 15-minute sessions for people for $20 for 15 minutes, just like I do when I'm working with Community Enlightenment. And then on October 24th, they're going to be doing a wellness fair, and I'll also be participating in that. I'll be outside. People can bring their dogs.
And that's in Delmar as well?
That's in Delmar, yeah. They're on Delaware Avenue. There's a big complex that's been there for years. They used to have a Ben and Jerry's and different things, and they're still there. And that's where Balance Massage and Wellness is. They're on the second story, and you pull in there, and above Edward Jones Brokers, I guess is what you'd say.
I'm familiar with the area. Yep.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing, and then hopefully we'll be doing some stuff real soon together.
Yes.
I love working, with your group. It's been a great gift to me to be connected with you guys. Yeah, I want to tell you one more story before we go. Is it okay? Do we have time?
Please.
Okay. This is one because it just came to me now when you said one of the best things to talk about, best stories. This one came to me. I was doing an event in Schenectady. It was the Animal Protective Foundation. They were doing their walk. And I was sitting there, and there wasn't much happening. And this young couple came up to me, and they had a very elderly dog. It was a little white dog, probably a Shih Tzu or a toy poodle. I can't remember. I don't remember her name either, but she was lovely, and she was 14 years old. And they were worried and wondering about, how long does she have? What can we do for her? And so we answered all those questions, and, they were getting ready to go. We were, doing a little small talk. They were getting ready to pay me and leave. And I had this feeling that there was more that she wanted to say. So I tuned back into her, and I turned to the couple, and I said, she says you tuck her in. And the woman said, oh my God, we tuck her in everywhere. We tuck her in the car. We tuck her in on the couch. We tuck her in bed. And I said to them, I could feel the love that she had, and that this was the most important thing to her, was the sweetest thing they did for her. And I said, well, she wants you to know that this is, that's the best thing that you do for her, is to tuck her in. She just loves it when you tuck her in. And it got me thinking about, if you were lucky enough as a child to have a parent that tucked you into bed, that feeling of being tucked in and being safe, and protected when you went to sleep, that's the way she felt. It was a wonderful gift they were giving her. And what I felt was that they probably weren't going to have an opportunity to talk to another animal communicator before she passed away. And that this was something that she wanted them to know and make sure that they knew and understood. So that's why she told me. But it was an afterthought. It was something after we were all done. She wanted to make sure that they knew that. So they tucked me in. It was the sweetest thing. The way she said it, I can still feel it. Gives me chills.
Yeah, just
they tucked me in.
Right in the heart. That really is a great story, and I'm sure that made a world of difference to those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for all that you do. And, being a pet owner myself, I understand, how important it is to have that patient and to be able to live in harmony in a house with different needs. And definitely stopping to enjoy the moment. Every time I see my puppies, it just reminds me, okay, gotta just.
What does your son have? Your son has a, what does he have?
So he has
Is it a reptile, or I'm trying to remember. We did.
Yep, he has a snake named Miracle, and he's a corn snake.
Okay.
Yep, and we got him as a baby, and he's shed about 3 times now, so he's probably triple the size.
Oh, wow. Okay,
So,
well, someday maybe I'll get to meet them in person. I know we worked with the pictures, but
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, he would love to show them to you. And,
great.
And we've since acquired a fish as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so one of those, what are they called? Beta fish.
Oh, okay, sure.
So
Great. Well, say hi to your son for me.
definitely will.
He's a wonderful guy.
Yes. And,
yeah, very likable.
Yes, he is. He's wonderful. And we definitely will be seeing you again. And I would love to attend your events because I just love sitting with you and hearing what the animals have to say and having that openness with you. So.
I'm looking forward to the time when we can, spread out a little bit and leave the house and be together. And I'm looking forward to working with Community Enlightenment.
Yes.
Lots more, so.
Definitely.
So thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. And before we go, if anybody wants to get a hold of you for a session or they want to check out your upcoming events, what would be a good way for them to find you?
Okay. To find out more about my work, the best thing to do is to go to my website, which is www.talktoyouranimal, just the way it sounds, 4 words together, talktoyouranimal.co. Not com. It's not a typo. If you see it written down, it's .co. Okay. And there's videos, there's audio things that I did for public radio. There's stories, testimonials, all that kind of stuff. It's a very busy website. There's a lot there. You can browse it and find some stuff. In terms of events, I'm not very technologically savvy, so I don't get to update my website and put my event schedule on there. The best way to find out my events is either to go to Animal Communication with David Louis on Facebook. That's my professional page, Animal Communication with David Louis. Or if you want to friend me personally, David Louis, it's Louis, on Facebook, you can do that. But that's the best way to find out about what I'm doing. I always post my events on there, and I post a lot of cute animal cartoons.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
So people can have fun, because it's fun. And that's, or call me at 518-892-9161. A lot of people do that. A lot of referrals I get, that people just give them my phone number and get a call from somebody. So feel free to call. I love to, as you can tell, I love to talk about my work. So
it's such amazing work, and I love your stories. So you've definitely touched a lot of animals and people's lives. So that's just so powerful to me. I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for your time today. I think we'll end it there, and definitely looking forward to working with you in the future and attending your events. And we learned so much about animal communication and David Louis, the animal communicator. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.
All righty. Bye-bye.